This is the story of how I lied to protect my brother, then fell in love with his wife. I never thought this would happen to me. I've always seen myself as the quiet sibling, the guy who follows the rules, who keeps the peace. But one night changed everything. A single phone call knocked over the first domino, and once they started falling, I couldn't stop them no matter how badly I wanted to. If this hits close to home, like and subscribe, it helps me keep telling the truth. Have you ever been in a situation like this? I'd love to hear. It was just past 11 p.m. I remember the time because I was half asleep on the couch, reruns of Friends humming in the background. I was about to head to bed when my phone lit up. Caller ID, Lauren. My brother's wife. We weren't close, not really. We got along at holidays, exchanged polite texts. So when I saw her name, my heart dropped into my stomach. You don't call your brother-in-law at that hour unless something is seriously wrong. I answered, instantly alert, Lauren. She didn't say anything at first, just breathed. Then a soft, cracked whisper, can I come over? I hesitated, confused. Yeah, of course. Are you okay? No, she said, but I can't talk about it over the phone. 20 minutes later, she showed up at my apartment, hair wet from the rain, eyes red, mascara smudged. She looked like she'd just walked out of a war zone. I barely got the door open before she burst into tears. I can't go home, she said. I can't look at him. She didn't have to say who him was. I wrapped a blanket around her shoulders and sat her down. Eventually, between sobs, she told me everything. She'd found texts on his phone, photos, late-night messages from a woman named Kayla, not a one-time thing, but months of betrayal. She confronted him, and he didn't deny it, just stared at her, like he was too tired to fight. I loved him, she whispered. I thought he loved me. I didn't know what to say. My older brother, Darren, had always been the golden boy, successful, charming, always seemed like the kind of guy who had it all together. But I'd seen cracks. The nights he stayed out too late, the quiet arguments behind closed doors. I just never thought it was this bad. Stay here, I told her, as long as you need. She curled up on my couch and cried herself to sleep. And I sat in the dark, staring at the ceiling, wondering what I was supposed to do. When Darren called the next morning, I didn't answer. He called again and again. Finally, I picked up. You talked to Lauren, he asked, voice tight. She's here. He sighed. She told you. Yeah. There was silence. Then he said something I'll never forget. Can you not tell her everything, please? What does that mean? It's complicated. It wasn't just cheating. She's not telling you the full story. Just, can you cover for me? Just until I figure this out, I should have said no. But instead, I said, what do you want me to say? Because that's what little brothers do, right? They protect their own. I wish I could say I hesitated longer, that I wrestled with the decision. But the truth, it took me less than 5 seconds to say yes. I told myself I was just buying time, that I'd only smooth things over until Darren and Lauren could talk like adults. Maybe save the marriage, maybe not, but it wasn't my job to blow it up. Or so I told myself. Lauren stayed 2 nights on my couch. She barely ate. She didn't cry as much after that first night, but her silence felt heavier than the tears. She stared at nothing, wrapped in my old hoodie, her wedding ring still on. On the 3rd morning, she looked at me with bloodshot eyes and asked, "Did you know about her?" I froze. This was it. The moment. I saw some texts once, I said carefully, but I didn't know it was that serious. I figured they were just talking. She searched my face. So he was cheating. Lauren, I don't know what was really going on between them. That was my first real lie. The one that mattered. Because I did know. A few months ago, Darren had bragged about Kayla over drinks, called her his escape hatch, said Lauren was too perfect, and made him feel small. I remember being disgusted and jealous, in a weird, buried way I didn't understand at the time. He said you'd defend him, she muttered, that you'd say it wasn't what it looked like. And I did, because I owed him. That's what I thought back then. She packed her things that afternoon, said she was going to her sister's for a while. As I walked her to the door, she turned to me. "You're not like him," she said, "but I was. I just didn't know it yet." Darren came over that night, acting like it was a casual visit. He opened a beer, flopped on my couch, and said, "So, how bad was it I wanted to punch him?" "She's devastated." I said. "You blew it." He shrugged. "She'll come around." "No, she won't." He glanced at me. "You always had a crush on her, didn't you? That hit like a slap." I stared at him. "What the hell are you talking about?" "Oh, come on. I've seen the way you look at her." I didn't respond, because I didn't even fully know what I felt back then. I'd buried it so deep, convinced myself it was admiration or awkward sibling-in-law respect, but the truth was more dangerous, more human. "She deserves better," I said. Darren laughed bitterly. "Then maybe you should date her." It was a joke, a jab, but something cracked open inside me. Lauren didn't reach out for a while. Weeks passed. I went back to work, tried not to think about her. But then I saw her again, at our parents' anniversary dinner. She didn't sit near Darren, barely looked at him. She did look at me, longer than before. After dessert, she slipped outside for air. I followed, telling myself I just wanted to check on her. We stood on the porch in silence for a while. "Finally," she said. "Thanks for letting me stay with you. That week saved me." I nodded. "You didn't deserve any of this." She looked at me. "Neither did you." And then she touched my hand. Just briefly, but enough. That touch haunted me for days. And the next time she called, I didn't even think before saying yes. I didn't mean for it to become a habit. At first, it was just coffee. Then it was lunch. Then it was texts that turned into late-night calls that turned into her showing up at my apartment again, but not crying this time. Just tired and a little lost. I kept telling myself I was being a friend, a good listener, nothing more. But every time Lauren laughed at one of my dumb jokes, or told me something she said she'd never told Darren, I felt this twisted mix of guilt and exhilaration. She started talking about the divorce like it was inevitable. "He keeps texting," she said once, scrolling through her phone with disgust, asking if I've calmed down. Like I overreacted to months of lies. I wanted to tell her he didn't deserve her, but I still hadn't told her my lie. She thought I didn't know anything about Kayla, that I was innocent in all this, that I hadn't already seen screenshots, that I hadn't listened to Darren brag. Every time she thanked me for being different, the shame got heavier, but I couldn't stop. She came over again one evening with a bottle of wine, said she didn't want to be alone on the night their divorce papers were served. "I thought I'd be more upset," she said, curling up on my couch, "but honestly I feel free." I nodded, heart pounding. You made the right call." She looked at me for a long time. "I don't even know who I was in that marriage," she said. "I lost myself trying to be enough for him." "You were always enough," I said, and instantly wished I could take it back. She didn't respond, just studied my face. "Then why did you never get married?" I laughed nervously. "I guess I never found someone who made me want to." That night, I drove her home. She hugged me a little longer than usual, and when she pulled away, she kissed my cheek. My whole body went rigid. I didn't know whether to apologize or kiss her back. I did neither, but she smiled and got out of the car without saying anything else. And for the first time, I let myself admit it. I was in love with her. Some part of me always had been. The next day, Darren showed up at my apartment. He looked worse than I'd ever seen him, unshaven, exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. I messed everything up. He said, "I thought she'd forgive me." I didn't know what to say. Every part of me was screaming. I wanted to punch him. I wanted to defend her. I wanted to confess. Instead, I said, "She's not coming back." He sat down heavily. "You think she hates me?" I looked away. "I think she's done." He stared at me. "You've been talking to her, haven't you?" My mouth went dry, here and there. I said, "Just making sure she's okay." He didn't say anything for a while. Then he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You ever think about what it'd be like if she ended up with you instead?" I froze. My brain short-circuited. "What, you're the nice brother. The quiet one. Girls always like that. She probably cried on your shoulder." "Didn't she?" He said it like a joke, but his eyes weren't laughing. I forced a smile. "You're paranoid." "Man." He stood up. "She wouldn't do that to me. Not with you." And for 1 second, I wanted to scream, "You did it to her. You don't get to play the victim now." But I said nothing. I let him believe I was still on his side. I let her believe I was never on his. And somewhere in the middle of those lies, I stopped knowing who I really was. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday morning. Lauren didn't tell me until that night. She called just after dinner, her voice quieter than usual. "It's done," she said. "Signed, stamped, filed. I'm no longer his wife." I waited for her to say something else. Anger, relief, regret, but all I heard was silence. "Do you want to come over?" I asked, before I could think better of it. She hesitated. "Can I 10 minutes later?" She was at my door, no makeup, hair pulled back, in sweatpants and a hoodie. She looked exhausted and stunning. We didn't say much at first. She curled up on my couch again, same as she had that first night. Except now. She wasn't crying. Now she looked empty. "I wasted so many years," she whispered, "trying to fix something I didn't break." I sat down beside her. "You did everything you could." "No. I didn't walk away sooner. That's on me." The pain in her voice hit deeper than I expected. Maybe because it mirrored something in me, something I hadn't put into words. She looked at me, and her voice dropped. "You never judged me. Not once. I never could." I said, "You didn't deserve any of this." She leaned her head on my shoulder, and I let her. She didn't leave that night. She fell asleep beside me on the couch, her hand tangled in mine. I watched her breathe, her chest rising and falling, and felt more peace than I had in years and more panic, because I knew this wasn't just comfort anymore. It was becoming something real, something dangerous. The next morning, she made us coffee like it was the most natural thing in the world. She asked if I had plans that weekend. I didn't. She smiled. "Good. Let's do something." And just like that, we started spending every weekend together. We went to farmers markets, took walks, ate takeout on the floor of my apartment. We talked about stupid things, deep things, nothing at all. The way she laughed when I teased her, the way she touched my arm when she was making a point. It felt like falling in love for the first time, all over again, except I was falling in love with my brother's ex-wife. The guilt was always there, lurking. Every time I looked at her, it whispered, "You're a traitor." But the feelings were louder. One night, we were watching a movie, some dumb romantic comedy, and I turned to say something, and she kissed me. Soft, slow, like she'd been waiting to do it forever. When we pulled apart, she whispered, "I'm sorry." I shook my head. "Don't be." That night, we crossed a line we couldn't uncross, and I wish I could tell you I regretted it in the moment, but I didn't. I felt like I'd finally stepped into the life I was supposed to live. The next morning, she looked at me and said, "What does this make us?" I didn't have a good answer, so I gave the truth. "I don't know yet, but I don't want it to stop." She nodded, eyes wide, vulnerable. Me neither. It should have felt like a beginning, but it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, about to jump. And deep down, I knew the fall was coming. I should have known it wouldn't stay secret for long. In our little world, behind closed doors, it felt almost normal, like maybe we were allowed to rewrite the rules, but reality doesn't let you live in a bubble forever, especially not when your family is the one holding the pins. What no one knew, what I'd buried even from myself, was that my feelings for Lauren hadn't started after the divorce. They'd started long before, years back, at Darren and Lauren's engagement party. I remember watching her from across the room. She was laughing at something Darren said, touching his arm lightly. Her smile lit up everything around her, and for one split second, I hated my own brother. It was fleeting. A flicker I smothered immediately, but it stayed, like a low hum beneath every interaction. I kept my distance after they got married, always polite, always friendly, never lingering too long at family events. I convinced myself I was just being respectful. But the truth, I was terrified of what I might feel if I let myself be around her too much. That's what made everything worse. The lie wasn't just to Lauren, it was to myself. After the night we first kissed, we started seeing each other in secret. We told ourselves we were taking it slow, but the truth was, we were hiding. Not just from Darren, but from the versions of ourselves we were supposed to be. We met in quiet corners of the city, lunches disguised as friendly catch-ups, late-night walks. We never said relationship, but we didn't need to. It was written in every look. I started skipping family dinners, making excuses. I couldn't stand to sit across from my parents, wondering if they'd see the guilt on my face. Darren kept calling me, sometimes just to talk, sometimes to vent about the divorce, sometimes worse, to reminisce about Lauren. "Do you think she ever really loved me?" he asked one night. I didn't know what to say. "She did." I lied. He sighed. "I just miss having someone. You're lucky you're still single. No baggage." I nearly laughed at that, but inside, I was breaking. Lauren and I had been together for 3 months when we made the mistake. We went to a small art festival on the outskirts of town. Thought we'd be safe there. New neighborhood, different crowd. We weren't. My cousin Elise spotted us. She didn't say anything at first, just stared, raised an eyebrow, walked away. I tried to play it off when Lauren asked, but I knew it was only a matter of time, and sure enough, 2 days later, Darren called me. "You and Lauren," he said. No greeting, just flat, cold words. "Are you serious?" I felt the blood drain from my face. I don't know what you've heard. Elise saw you. She said you were holding hands. I couldn't lie. Not anymore. "Yes," I said. Silence. Then, since when I hesitated, "A few months." He laughed short and bitter. "You're unbelievable." "Darren, you didn't mean to fall for my wife. She's not your wife anymore." "Oh, screw you." He hung up. I stared at my phone, my hands shaking. That was the last time we spoke for almost a year. They say once a line is crossed, nothing is ever the same. And it wasn't. Darren's silence wasn't just absence, it was punishment. It was like being erased. One day, I was his brother, his best man, the one person who always had his back. The next, I was a ghost he refused to acknowledge. Our parents noticed immediately. "Have you talked to Darren?" Mom asked at Sunday dinner, the week after the call. "He's not returning my messages." I shrugged. "He's going through a lot." She gave me a look, one of those maternal x-rays that says I know you're hiding something, but I'm too tired to dig right now. Lauren and I kept seeing each other, but the magic started to splinter, not because we stopped loving each other, but because we couldn't pretend we hadn't hurt someone deeply, someone who used to be central to both our lives. Every sweet moment was tainted by that silence. Every laugh felt stolen, and then there were the whispers. Our cousin Elise didn't keep her mouth shut. Neither did others. Little by little, the truth trickled through the family like a slow leak, poisoning everything it touched. She left Darren and went straight to you. Did you cheat with her while they were still married? Was that your plan all along? We stopped going to family events altogether. Holidays passed with just the two of us, staring at the empty chairs we used to fill together. But we clung to each other, maybe too hard, like if we held on tight enough, it would make the shame fade. Like love could erase betrayal. It couldn't. One night, Lauren broke the silence. "I think I want a fresh start," she said. "Somewhere else. New city, just us." I should have said yes. Instead, I hesitated, because as much as I wanted to run away with her, I didn't want to lose the rest of my family. "You want to disappear?" I asked gently. "I want to stop feeling like I stole something. You didn't steal me." She gave me a sad smile. "No. But I let myself love you before the ink was dry." Neither of us said it out loud. But we both felt it. Maybe we hadn't cheated physically, but emotionally, the line had blurred long before. We stayed. Didn't move. Tried to build something here. Tried to stay out of sight. Months passed. We settled into a rhythm. Quiet mornings. Shared routines. Whispers about next steps. Then she missed her period. We didn't panic right away. She was always irregular. Stress, she said. But then, week after week passed. She took a test. 2 pink lines. We stared at it together in silence. And then she cried. Not from fear, not from joy, but something deeper. Something I couldn't name at the time. "I don't want our baby to grow up with this shadow," she whispered. I wrapped my arms around her. "Then we'll make our own light." I meant it. God, I meant it so much. That night, I proposed. I didn't plan it, didn't have a ring, just blurted it out while brushing my teeth. Of all things, marry me. She blinked at me in the mirror. "Are you serious? I want to do this right. For real? Not in secret? No more shame." Tears welled in her eyes. She said yes. And for the first time in months, we both laughed. Really laughed. But even as I held her close, a chill ran down my spine, because deep down, I knew the past wasn't done with us. Not yet. We didn't invite many people to the wedding. It wasn't some grand, white-laced redemption story. It was quiet, modest, on a windy cliffside just outside the city. A few of Lauren's friends came. My best friend, Jake, stood in as my best man. My parents didn't come. Neither did Darren. I'd sent him an invitation, not because I expected him to show, but because not sending it would have felt worse, like I was admitting something shameful, like I didn't even want to pretend there was still a bridge left to burn. He never responded. Still, that day was beautiful. Lauren wore a simple cream dress. Her baby bump had just started to show, and she kept placing her hands over it like it was our quiet little secret. Her smile in the wind, eyes full of hope, it made me believe, for a few hours, that maybe we really could start over. The ceremony ended. We kissed. We danced alone, barefoot on the grass, just the two of us. It was everything and nothing like I imagined marriage would be. We came home that night exhausted and full of this soft, glowing hope. Until Darren showed up. I don't know how he knew. Maybe someone posted a picture. Maybe he just felt it in his gut. But around 2 someone started pounding on the door. I thought it was a neighbor. It wasn't. I opened it to find Darren standing there, red-eyed, fists clenched, smelling like whiskey and rage. "You married her," he said. No hello, no preamble. Lauren appeared behind me in the hallway. I tried to block her view. "Darren, not now. You married my wife. She's not your wife anymore," I said calmly, keeping my voice low, but my heart was hammering. Lauren stepped closer, hand on her stomach. "Darren, you need to go," she said quietly. His eyes flicked to her belly. He stared. "You're pregnant." I didn't answer. "You're having his baby." Lauren didn't flinch. "Yes." I'd never seen Darren cry before, but he did then. Not the big, dramatic kind. Just quiet tears, clinging to his eyelashes like they were too proud to fall. "I didn't think you'd actually do it," he said, his voice hoarse. I thought, maybe it was a rebound. Maybe he was just comforting you. "No," she whispered. "He loved me when you forgot how. He looked at me like I was a stranger. "I told you everything," he said. "I begged you to help me, and you took her anyway." I stepped forward. "You didn't lose her because of me. You lost her because you didn't treat her like she mattered." His jaw clenched. "You were supposed to be my brother." I swallowed. He turned and walked away without another word. Just silence. The door clicked shut behind him like a final sentence. Lauren stood next to me, trembling. I pulled her close. But even as I held her, even as I whispered that everything would be okay, I knew nothing was okay. We'd built something beautiful, on a grave, and it had started to sink. After Darren walked out that night, it felt like something final had snapped. He didn't text, didn't call, didn't answer my attempts to reach out. It was like I had officially been erased, not just from his life, but from the shared history we once had. The silence was worse than yelling. At least if he yelled, it would have meant he still felt something other than betrayal. But this was exile. Our parents found out shortly after. I knew the second I walked into their house for a casual Sunday visit. Mom barely looked at me. Dad, usually soft-spoken, asked the question bluntly over coffee. "Did you really marry your brother's ex-wife?" I didn't lie, yes. My mom dropped her spoon into her cup. The sound echoed louder than it should have. "She's pregnant," I added, before they could ask. "You disgust me," my mom said, her voice breaking. My father stood. "You need to leave." Just like that. No chance to explain that it wasn't some affair, that Lauren and I had waited, that we'd built something real, something honest at least after the divorce. None of it mattered. To them, the timeline was irrelevant, the betrayal too loud to be muted by logic. I left their house knowing it might be years before I walked through that door again. Lauren tried to be strong, but I saw the cracks. I saw the way she curled in on herself when I told her, "I never wanted to take you away from your family," she whispered that night. "You didn't take me," I said. "I made that choice. But the guilt, it doesn't just leave because you say the words." And then the baby came. We named her Amelia. She had Lauren's soft eyes and my mouth. And when I held her for the first time, I thought maybe this is the redemption. Maybe we finally start over, clean. For a while it felt like that. There were long nights and longer mornings. But in between were these slivers of grace, watching Lauren hum lullabies, seeing Amelia's fingers wrap around mine. But the shadow never left. People still whispered. Neighbors, former friends, the ones who saw our story as a betrayal they didn't forgive. Worse than the whispers were the absences. No grandparents visiting the baby, no cousins dropping off hand-me-downs. Just us, in a new family made from pieces of an old one. One afternoon, I saw Darren's name flash across my phone. My heart stopped. It was a short message. Just one line, "I hope you treat her better than I did." I stared at it for a long time, didn't reply. Because how do you answer that? How do you say, "I'm trying," when trying still meant hurting someone else to get here? I wanted to believe that love was enough, that Lauren and I were meant to find each other, no matter how messy the path. But sometimes, love isn't a clean break from the past. It's a bandage you keep pressing down, hoping it holds. And ours was starting to fray. The house grew quiet after Amelia turned 2. Not because anything dramatic happened, but because, slowly, everything just dulled. The sharp urgency of our love story softened under routine. The spark that once lit every room we entered together now flickered only in brief, quiet moments, like when she brushed Amelia's hair behind her ear, or when I watched them sleep from the hallway. We were still in love, but life had worn us down. Lauren stayed home with Amelia most days, and I worked longer hours to support us. We stopped going out, stopped texting during the day. Sometimes, we barely looked at each other in the evenings except to ask who was doing bath time or if we had any clean bottles. One night, After Amelia was finally down and the dishes were done, Lauren sat beside me on the couch. "Do you ever miss your brother?" she asked. It felt like a knife, even though she said it gently. "I think about him." I said, "Every day." "Me too," she whispered. There was a silence between us I didn't know how to fill. "I don't regret loving you," she said. "But sometimes I wonder if we should have waited longer, if we should have stayed away from each other." I finished. She didn't answer. We both knew what she meant. We'd sprinted toward each other because we were hurting, because we had no one else. But we hadn't paused to grieve what we left behind. We tried to turn the wreckage into a foundation, and even now, the ground still trembled beneath us. I started going to therapy. Lauren tried yoga. We both looked for ways to patch what we never admitted was cracked. I wrote Darren letters, never sent them, until one afternoon, Amelia drew a family picture. It was stick figures me, Lauren, Amelia, and a smaller one off to the side. When I asked who that was, she said, "Uncle D." Lauren looked up from her tea. "She's never even met him." She said, "She must have heard us talk." Lauren shook her head. "Kids know. They feel what's missing." That night, I printed out the letter I never thought I'd send. It wasn't an apology, at least not in the traditional sense. It was raw and honest. I told him how much I missed him, how I hated that it ended the way it did. I admitted I'd loved Lauren longer than I realized, that I'd hated myself for it, that I knew what we did felt like a betrayal, and maybe it was, but that it wasn't just lust or revenge. It was real. I included a photo of Amelia. I didn't expect him to write back. Weeks passed. Then one day, there was a package on our doorstep. No return address. Inside was a single envelope. The handwriting was unmistakably his. Lauren watched from across the room as I opened it. My hands shook the way they did the day I proposed. It wasn't a long letter, but it changed everything. "I still hate what you did," Darren wrote, "but I get it now. I didn't fight for her when I had the chance. You did. That doesn't make it okay, but it makes it real." He ended with something that shattered me. "Tell her I'm sorry for everything." And below that, a single line, "Maybe one day we'll talk again." I didn't cry. Not then, but Lauren did. Silently, a single tear down her cheek as she whispered, "I never thought he'd forgive me." And I didn't say what I was thinking, that maybe he hadn't. Not fully, but maybe he'd started to forgive himself. The letter sat on our mantel for weeks. We didn't frame it, didn't tuck it away, just left it there visible, a silent reminder that even the worst things can shift. Just a little, with time. Lauren started smiling more. Not in a performative way, not in the "let's fake it till we feel it" way we'd both used for too long, but real smiles. Soft ones. In the morning when Amelia toddled into our bed, laughs that didn't sound like they were borrowed from some better version of her past self. And I started forgiving myself, not all at once, but in fragments. Every time I picked up Amelia from daycare and she squealed, "Daddy," with her whole soul. Every time Lauren reached for my hand in the car. Every time I made dinner without needing to replay old conversations with my brother in my head, I wrote back. I told Darren that I didn't expect anything from him, not a phone call, not a visit, just that I was grateful for the letter, that I hoped one day we'd sit in the same room again, maybe even let Amelia meet him. I didn't get a reply, not right away, but one evening, Lauren found a small box in our mailbox. No postage, no markings. Inside was a tiny bracelet, child-sized, silver, with a single charm, a D. We didn't need a note to know who it was from. And just like that, something cracked open between us and the past. We invited Darren to Amelia's 3rd birthday. Quietly, no RSVP expected. He didn't come. But a card arrived, no signature, just "Happy birthday. Kiddo, you've got a strong mama and a stubborn dad. I guess you'll be all right, Lauren cried when she read it. So did I. Later that night, after the last of the balloons had deflated, after Amelia finally passed out from too much sugar and screaming, I stood in the kitchen with Lauren. She looked at me and said, "Do you think we ever deserved this?" And I answered honestly, "I don't know, but we have it, and I won't waste it." We hugged in the dim light, the kind of embrace that's less about passion and more about endurance. A few days later, I caught Amelia drawing again. She drew us all, Lauren, me, her, and now a new stick figure with a big letter D above his head. "Is that Uncle D again?" I asked. She nodded. "I want to meet him someday." I smiled. "Maybe you will." That night, after we put her to bed, Lauren and I sat outside under the stars. We didn't talk, just listened to the wind, the quiet, the hum of the life we'd pieced together. There's still a lot unsaid between us and Darren. Still spaces too raw to touch, but something healed anyway. Maybe not completely, but enough to start breathing again. It's been 5 years now. 5 years since the night Lauren knocked on my door, broken and shaking. 5 years since I lied to her, then to myself, then to everyone else. 5 years since I crossed the line between brother and stranger. And still sometimes I wake up wondering if it was all a dream. But then I see Amelia padding into the kitchen with wild hair and sleepy eyes, and I know it wasn't. I don't pretend I was a good man back then. I made choices that hurt people. I lied when I should have told the truth. I let silence cover guilt until it became part of me. But I also loved deeply, messily, honestly. And that love, flawed as it was, gave me a second chance. Lauren and I still have hard days. We don't always get it right, but we fight fair now. We listen better. We grieve what we lost and protect what we've built. As for Darren, I still don't know if we'll ever fully reconcile, but I hope one day he walks through that door again. Not for me, not even for Lauren, but for her, his niece, his family. Maybe one day I'll find peace with it, but tonight, at least, I can breathe.